Have you ever eaten something you've had 1,000 times before, but then one day it just tastes different? Well, what if I told you that a tiny change to a chocolate bar's shape once kicked off this massive controversy, pitting thousands of angry customers against a giant candy company? Okay, let's get into this. It's a pretty delicious mystery. I know, it sounds kind of crazy, right? How could the taste possibly change if the recipe is exactly the same? But that is the big question we're unpacking here. Can what you see actually trick what you taste? So our story starts in the UK with a super popular treat, the Cadbury Dairy Milk bar. Now, for years and years, it had this classic, angular, blocky shape. But then one day, Cadbury decided to make the pieces rounder. And almost immediately, people were like, wait a minute, something's not right here. And this is where things get really interesting, because on one side you had tons of people complaining online, saying the new bar was way too sweet, almost sickly. But on the other side, Cadbury was absolutely firm, saying, nope, we haven't changed the recipe one single bit. So, who's telling the truth? And, to make matters even worse, people with a keen eye quickly figured out it wasn't just the taste. The new bars were actually 4 grams lighter, but they were being sold for the exact same price. So not only did the chocolate taste weird to them, but they were also getting less of it. You can imagine this only made them more suspicious. The official statement from the company only made the whole thing weirder. They were totally open about it, saying, yep, we definitely changed the shape from the old rectangles to this new curvy design. But they stuck to their guns on the recipe. So we've got a confirmed shape change, a denied recipe change, and a whole lot of very confused chocolate lovers. To figure this one out, we actually have to stop looking at the chocolate bar and start looking inside the human brain. Right, so to solve this mystery, we have to go beyond the candy aisle and into psychology. It turns out our brains have this kind of secret language, a hidden set of rules that connects what we see with what we taste, way before that food ever actually hits our tongue. This whole idea is called shape symbolism. Basically, it's the theory that our brains are just hardwired to connect certain shapes with certain flavors. It's not something you learn in school, it's more like an instinct. A round shape just feels different in our mind than a sharp, pointy one, and that feeling can literally spill over and change how we perceive taste. And what's really wild is how consistent this is. Across the board, researchers have found that our brains link round shapes with sweetness. Think of berries or peaches or a round cookie. On the flip side, we tend to associate sharp, angular shapes with bitterness or sourness, like a wedge of lemon, or even something like the fizziness of a soda. And this isn't just a theory. They've tested this with chocolate. In one major study, they had people taste both milk chocolate and dark chocolate. Then they asked them to match each flavor to a shape. And the results were so clear, people consistently matched the sweeter milk chocolate with round shapes and the more bitter dark chocolate with angular ones. So yeah, this connection, it's totally real. Okay, so now that we've got this key piece of scientific evidence, we can finally go back to that big chocolate debate and figure out what was really going on with that too sweet Cadbury bar. All right, this is the moment of truth. You've got the frustrated customers on one side, and you've got the giant corporation on the other. Based on everything we've just learned about how our brains work, who was right? And the answer, as weird as it might sound, is that they both were. Both sides were telling their own version of the truth. This wasn't a case of someone lying, it was a case of perception. Let's break this down. Cadbury was being completely honest. From a chemical ingredient list perspective, the recipe was absolutely the same. But the consumers were also right, because their experience of the taste had genuinely changed. That new, rounder shape was basically telling their brains to expect sweetness, and that signal amplified how sweet the chocolate actually tasted to them. They were quite literally tasting with their eyes. And hey, it's not just some lab experiment. Food experts totally get this. An award-winning chocolatier, Paul Young, pointed out that shape is not just decoration. He said the old rectangular chunks were a core part of the dairy milk taste experience. Changing the shape fundamentally changed the product. So what does this all mean? This is way bigger than just one chocolate bar controversy. This little quirk in our brains, this link between shape and taste, could actually have some huge implications for the future of food. Think about it like this. Let's say a company wants to make its snacks a little healthier. Instead of just slashing the sugar and having everyone complain that it tastes bland, they could use shape symbolism. They could make their cookie, for example, a little bit rounder. That roundness enhances the perceived sweetness. This might let them reduce the actual amount of sugar in the recipe, but we would still experience it as tasting just as sweet. It's kind of the best of both worlds, right?
So the next time you grab a snack, just take a second to really look at its shape. It might be telling your brain more about how it's going to taste than you think. And it leaves us with this really cool question to ponder. If we can use something as simple as a shape to make our brains taste more sweetness, what other secrets are hiding on our plates?